we'll show our own.
All right,
All
we're
right,
going
meeting
live.
is now live. Can I tweet the link?
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So
DM it to Gio as well.
yeah, I'm gonna DM it to that boy Gio.
How do I see comments live?
You have to go on the actual stream. Like you have to be a viewer on the stream.
We are live. I know.
There's no like moderator mode.
Oh, there might.
It's
Can
not
they
like
see
Twitch.
us?
But I think you might. Yeah. I think you. I don't know how you can. I don't know. Like, cause Twitch has like what Nightbot or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we can set up something like that, but I definitely feel like it's something that we could.
Yo, I really did just check if I spelled Rushmore right for Twitter, just
Nice,
to make sure.
Did I spell it right?
You gotta rush more.
Yeah,
that's
it's
my
just like
philosophy.
how you would think it is. It's spelled how you think it would be.
Alright.
I just wanted to double check.
Oh, Gio, welcome Gio to the live stream. We see you're tuning in. Thank you so much for joining. All right, guys, let's kick this podcast off. How you guys doing? You guys all right?
Yeah, but you.
Yeah, man, we're all stuffed from Thanksgiving dinner, you know.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
leftovers.
yeah, I've been eating those leftovers. That's for sure. I mean, life's good. Can't complain. Backseat Banter, headed in the right direction. We got a lot of stuff coming out for you guys. If you don't follow our Instagram, make sure you go do that. We'll be updating you regularly. Backseat.banter. But let's get into a topic that we really haven't addressed to the people. How we ended up merging, because if you did not know, Brandon and Ben over there originally, Brandon, Sam, and one of our other friends, Jake, we were another podcast really last, 2 years now?
It was like a little while ago. Yeah, we were
It was
really
last year. It was last year.
It was last year. Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
BC.
we were lost.
before Corona.
Yeah.
That was a good one, man.
Lights out sports talk. It was pretty fun. We didn't have the right drive and the vision. We were just doing it because we were bored and wanted to do something cool and talk about stuff that we would normally talk about and just put it on the internet, see how it does. But a year later, it was kind of funny because Brandon and Ben wasn't in the Lights Out Sports Talk, but Brandon and Ben started their own podcast, off the bar, and then they were just talking soccer over there. And Sam and I started Backseat Banter. Just one day, like we were like, "Yo, you want to just start up doing a pod again?" Individually, like due to Corona, we really weren't as in touch as we normally were, which sucked, but it is what it is. I kind of, the second I saw that they were also doing a podcast, I felt like a vibe that things weren't like 100% right, because, Sam and I missed doing it with Brandon. We never really did it with Ben. So if you guys want to go back and hunt for which episode was our first episode, you can check out our experience with Ben on the pod first time. I mean, we're way more comfortable now, I could tell you that.
Yeah, it's like night and day. We were stuttering way too much. We still say like and a bunch of times, but we're getting a lot better for you guys. You could tell the video quality is going up. We're live streaming our pods now, so we're making moves here.
Yeah. What was your perspective, Brandon and Ben, on the merger and how everything, the events leading to it, really?
What we did, like 2 podcasts, like when we were off the bar and you guys were Backseat Banter.
Mhm.
And I don't know, like Jonathan just like randomly put us all in a group chat at like 3 a.m.
That's when all the best thoughts happen. Trust me.
the best ideas come at like either late at night or in the shower or on the toilet. I firmly believe that.
Best
Like,
if you get all
Einstein
three
didn't
at
come
once.
up with the nuke. Like Einstein didn't come up with the nuke until like he was taking a poo. All
Dude,
right?
Einstein didn't come up with the nuke.
The atomic bomb.
He
I-
didn't do that either. He didn't-
Whatever
That's the sitting on the toilet part, dude. That's what it is.
He had Mexican before, and it was just like, yo.
That
Imagine
Chipotle.
dropping this on the country.
That Chipotle really does wonders. I mean, not a sponsor, but anyways, yeah. I mean, we did do a few episodes. Like, I was like,
Yeah, like,
bro, you're
it's like-
doing pods? Yo, hop on our pod.
Yeah, and so it was just kind of like that. And so when Jonathan randomly like texted us during the morning, and he was like, "Yo, like you sent like pretty much like a text like for like a Bible, right? Like that, like it was like long as hell, like just of like you just saying like how we can get like how we can both grow simultaneously, and just like if we merge together, like bring your soccer content over to our stuff,
Yeah, because you guys were limited to soccer only with the name Off the
A
Bar,
little
which
bit,
is
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there were, like you could make some like metaphor or connotation of like going above and beyond or whatever, but like Backseat Banter just has like a more general feel, general idea. Plus, like I kind of missed like the lights out days of just like talking to you
Yeah.
guys, because I mean that was something like I was kind of missing in college as well. But like now we get to do it, daily thing, and so like for me it was just like a no brainer to kind of just like, hey, if these guys are building something, we're building something. We kind of have similar platforms and ideas and that kind of stuff. So like, why the hell not? And that the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, it was really interesting also to get Ben in the scene this time because I don't know if you guys listen to the podcast often. Ben is probably one of the most well-spoken and one of the most opinionated people on this podcast. So if he disagrees with you, he's gonna let you know. But if he comes on and you're not talking what I like to call spew. He'll call you out on it or not. But honestly, I didn't expect things to go as well as they did. I knew we did the merger because I mean we're all in school. Ben's still in high school. He's about to graduate this year and go off to college too. But we honestly had a workload, and we were doing this all during a Corona summer where we were all just basically at home or not really doing much. So it was just a no-brainer to merge also because of like putting out more content for people. And I mean, we love having conversations together too.
Yeah, and speaking of more content, after you're done watching this podcast, we started a gaming channel as well. So the link will be in our channel's page. So if you guys are into that kind of content, you can go check it out. But before we do anything else, let's do the intro. Jonathan, you want to take that away, and then we'll jump right into our main topic of the night.
Absolutely. I mean, today we got a crazy podcast, and thank you everybody who is tuning in live on YouTube. This is obviously Backseat Banter. We really appreciate everybody who is tuning in across the globe. Welcome sports fans to Backseat Banter. When you hear those words, you already know we're getting right into it. My name is Jonathan Silber, one of the hosts of the show. I'm joined by my co-host, Sam Kruchikov.
Yep.
And Backseat Banter's co-hosts and hosts of Off the Bar Banter, podcast. As mentioned earlier, Ben and Brandon Holkman. If you guys are listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. It helps with the algorithm and it helps us grow as a channel. If you are listening when we do post this tomorrow on Apple or Spotify or your preferred streaming service, we would really appreciate a good rating if you guys do enjoy. Before we get into the episode, guys, we're talking about Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is the holy grail of players when you're comparing it to an NBA standpoint. And we are going to have some disagreements here, if I'm being quite honest, because when you talk about Mount Rushmore, you're talking about greatest players of all time. And it is hard to compare players to other great players.
Mm-hmm.
And I have compiled a list of the non-obvious. And I have made some conversations that could potentially put them in the Mount Rushmore. So what we're going to be doing for you viewers today is making Backseat Banter's Mount Rushmore. And with that being said, is Michael Jordan a no-brainer?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I feel like that's like the
definitely.
one guy that always has a spot, like when talking about top players of all time. So like,
I don't know,
there's just
man.
another.
I don't know. If you ask Ryan Hollins, it ain't him.
I mean,
Dude,
listen, unless he
LeVar
loses
Ball
the
can beat
one-on-one to
him one-on-one.
LeVar, then like, all right, it's like if Tyson loses tomorrow. All right, like,
It's gonna be kind of sad though.
yeah, it's like, or if Floyd like actually fights Logan Paul and like he loses to Logan Paul, like the legacy is like,
I'm quitting watching boxing if that happens. So yeah,
So,
I hope that
like,
would like
honestly,
I watch
but
it
like,
casually.
no, for real, like. Mike's up there. He has to be like in any conversation of top players of all time. Mount Rushmore is just another one. So yeah, you don't have a 10-part documentary series about you winning 6 rings and not be considered the greatest player of all time.
The Last
it
Dance
was-
The Last Dance was probably one of the best Netflix series I've watched in a long time. I mean, to get that behind the stage access kind of, and we weren't, I mean, we were alive towards the latter half of his career.
Yeah, but that's when it didn't really count.
Yeah. But I got to like dive into what Michael Jordan is. I know I've seen a bunch of highlights, but I didn't really know the full story of Michael Jordan, the kind of legend of Michael Jordan. It's not, it's like kind of crazy. Like it's mythology almost. Like you look back at some of these like great like gods for these people, and Michael Jordan is a god in the basketball community. It's just what it is.
Yeah, he is like a larger than life figure, definitely. He's the only player I think that you have to say his name and no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's top 4 of all time. He's the number 1 of all time. I know that might be a controversial statement right now. And if you guys disagree, let us know in the chat. We want to hear your Mount Rushmore. That's your top 4 players in no particular order. Let us know yours. But we're going to be diving into ours. We're going to have some controversial names maybe pop up. But the only consensus one, I think, is going to end up being Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he's just the GOAT. And when you get a player like that, the title of GOAT, he obviously is in your top 4 because he's the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what about the? Oh, sorry, Ben. You were going to say something?
No. I mean, just to say, if you are known outside, I mean, except if you're like OJ Simpson or someone, if you're known outside of
what does OJ have to do?
Wait, I'm getting to my point.
He's getting to it.
This is what happens. I'm trying to make my point, and then y'all want to clip this or put this on TikTok. All right? So what happens is
Russ in 5 years.
Russ is 5 years.
Wait, so OJ's in the Mount Rushmore
of basketball?
Yes.
I'm getting away with it.
All right.
But,
I want to hear the point. I feel like Ben's
so
gonna make a point.
unless you are OJ Simpson, if you say Michael Jordan's name, everyone knows who that's going to be. And I'm saying that because it's because of his sport. It's not because of whatever he did outside of the sport. Like, and there are few athletes who have that. He revolutionized the branding for an athlete in itself. With his shoe deals, and he was one of the only. Before that, they were called tennis shoes because they were only given out to tennis players.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm sorry. I'm still kind of baffled. How does OJ equate to
No. OJ, like if you say OJ's name, he's known, but he's not known for being like a good running back.
Mm-hmm.
Like widely known.
I get that point.
If you all right, that's fair. Like if you went to someone and you said, "Oh, do you know who OJ Simpson is?" They'll probably be like, "Oh, the guy that killed."
Allegedly, he's found not guilty.
Allegedly.
He's found not guilty.
He's known for his game, not for his accolades or infamous acts outside of the basketball court.
Yeah,
but
all right.
On the other hand, actually, Michael Jordan, if you guys did watch Last Dance, had a lot of kind of a bad aura around him during his NBA days, which I feel like clouds a lot of people's judgment when looking at him as the GOAT, because they kind of see him as a distraction. I mean,
that's the greatest distraction of all time.
No, I know.
But that's with every GOAT of every sport. Like that's like the aura of someone coming around, like the aura of having that, because he was like the person in basketball,
the guy.
You just have to be on another level to just smoke a cigar right before a basketball game and just go out there and drop 40 points. It's crazy to me. But he's definitely no brainer on the Mount Rushmore. We all agree.
Yeah. Now here's someone that I feel like should be a no-brainer, but maybe some people even in this call are going to argue it. LeBron James. It seems like he's the one that's tugging on Superman's cape, Superman being Michael Jordan. He's trying to get up there, and a lot of people on TV, on ESPN, have already crowned LeBron the GOAT. I don't know if I would go so far as to say that, but can we all agree that he's on the Mount Rushmore, or someone over there looks like the Hulkmans are staring at each other? They're having like a Western standoff. They're about to take a few paces and turn. One of you guys has something to say about LeBron being on the Mount Rushmore?
I'll start. I think he is. Jonathan, go ahead.
I do not believe LeBron James cracks the Mount Rushmore as of now.
No, you can't put the second best player not on the Rushmore by itself.
I do not believe.
Talk about
LeBron,
impact. We're talking about impact itself.
I do not believe LeBron is the second best player of all time.
Wow.
I do not believe.
And you want to talk about impact? I wouldn't say nowhere close to Jordan, but he's there. You want to just talk about impact in itself.
Mm-hmm.
When people pattern their games, I mean, you could say Kobe, but everyone looks up to LeBron in itself, whether it be his charity work, whether it be through his sense of marketing. I mean, his businessman accolades with buying stocks in Liverpool, which is really worked out because they've been incredible. But I think at the end of the day, you got to look at his impact in itself. Even if you don't think he is the second best, even if you don't think he is, even if you don't think he is one of the greatest, you have to look at his impact on the game in itself. You have to take kind of the approach of the fact if you have him on your wall and you're not putting him in the top, you're not putting him on the Mount Rushmore. I've never seen.
I don't know.
This is LeBron James. This is the only wall he deserves to be on, not a mountain. He deserves to be. I got this poster like walking out of a Heat game when he was still in Miami. I didn't pay for this, I just had it. I thought it was cool. I put it up. But LeBron, I know Brandon may agree with me.
I do agree
does not crack the top 5. We probably have top 4. Apologies. We probably have different reasons why.
You're saying LeBron is not on your Mount Rushmore right now.
LeBron is not on my Mount Rushmore right now.
He could be
LeBron,
number 5. He could be like if the U.S. actually had the budget to finish off Mount Rushmore and put like another president on there because they were planning on doing that and actually making them into full bodies. Like he could be number 5 if the U.S. didn't run out of budget for it. So
the NBA has unlimited
but you can't
budget.
Put someone that's argued as the greatest of all time widely, not by YouTube.
I do not argue that.
I said widely, not by YouTube bozos.
Okay, so, he is considered one of the greatest players of all time. I'm not taking that away from him. Okay. All I'm saying is that there are other people that in NBA history that deserve to be on there before he does, besides accolades and besides things that have transpired throughout NBA history.
So you're saying impact doesn't count, because that's what you're basically saying.
Also, my girlfriend says he's too sassy, which I agree with.
Well, yeah, but then again,
okay.
And that's the modern NBA.
Let's hear some rational
Gio,
points.
Yeah. Thank you, Gio, for tuning in. Gio said in the chat, LeBron and Durant are the top players that should be on Mount Rushmore. I don't agree with you necessarily. I know Ben and Sam would agree with you about LeBron James. Kevin Durant is nowhere near to being a Mount Rushmore player. Actually, today it came out that people were like comparing him to Michael Jordan or something. I saw a quote. I'll find it you guys when. Excuse me.
Some homeless man that was high on like cocaine or something, probably. But I mean, I agree with LeBron. I think Durant hasn't had. He's an unbelievably great player, but I don't think he has had the amount of impact that we probably would see.
Yeah.
Well, we won't see a Durant in the next like 20, 30 years probably. We might not see LeBron for another 100. Like it's
Well, everyone's saying
listen,
Zion.
you can no, but
Zion's
you
not
can
LeBron.
even go back. You can even go back and see our rankings for next season. We put this out on our Instagram, and I think we made a podcast about this too, about who we think our top 10 players are. We think right now Kevin Durant is easily top 3 in the league. Right now, we weren't.
I didn't even put
consensus about where he
LeBron
ranked
as
there.
my number 1 player in the league currently.
Well, that's because he's like
yeah,
38
but that's just
years
your
old.
opinion, my guy.
Yeah, he's like 38 years old, and maybe he is.
He's
Maybe
35.
he's the Finals MVP. But
Here, hold on. Let me bring up this MJKD quote. Kevin Durant on the greatest scorer of all time debate. Greatest scorer, not greatest player. MJ is one of one, God level, unmatched, unparalleled, a pure master at his expletive. I'm still watching his games to learn. Leave me out of it, please. He does not want to be in this conversation. So, Gio, unfortunately, we are not going to put them in this conversation.
And the other person Gio brought up was Steph Curry.
If you want to make a 2010s Mount Rushmore, sure, Curry gets on there because
mhm.
back-to-back MVP, one of them was unanimous.
Well, so now accolades count.
I'm saying,
got you.
I'm saying accolades didn't count.
You fell into your own trap.
I'm saying 2010s. First off, he doesn't get onto it now. Steph Curry doesn't come anywhere close to a Mount Rushmore now. All I'm saying is that because we're saying all of NBA history, I'm saying 2010.
Yeah.
What Steph Curry has done, and it still goes to my point of what he's done outside of the game of basketball. Steph Curry has revolutionized the game of basketball because there's now more threes taken per game rather than.
I wouldn't put Curry.
Dominant.
I wouldn't put Curry on the Mount Rushmore.
I'd put Curry in the top 10.
He is so close.
Yeah,
I'd
say
because
really
he changed the way the game is played by himself.
And that's
that does not happen.
It's more than just basketball. It's more than just what they've done on the court. It's outside the court as well, and what they've been able to accomplish outside the court as well.
Wait, so you're saying that he has the accolades and he's also changed the game? What's stopping him?
Right. I just feel like it's recency bias.
You want me to? I'll just give you my reasoning. I don't think LeBron cracks Mount Rushmore because I believe Kobe Bryant cracks Mount Rushmore. And I put 2 other GOATs ahead of LeBron James when it does come to this conversation. Kobe Bryant, for me, growing up, was really one of my basketball idols. I worship this man. Every time I throw, the country does this, but every time I throw something in the garbage, I still say Kobe. I no longer say Kobe, I say for Kobe. Because unfortunately we did lose him this past year. But Kobe Bryant cracks my Mount Rushmore. What are your thoughts, guys? Because this is, if not the closest thing to MJ in history.
They were saying
I want to start on this one because right before we started, I said there's one legend that it pains me not to put on the list, and that was Kobe. It hurts me so much to say he does not crack the Mount Rushmore for me. And that is because he was a mirror image of Michael Jordan. He didn't do anything new. He just did what the greatest of all time did, almost equally as good. He was lacking at times, but even then, that's still better than most people that were in the NBA ever when he was lacking. Right, he got hurt and he still came back. He hit a couple free throws. That's part of like the legend of his career. He had a 3-peat and then a back-to-back title. He is so special, and he was so special, but he was really the one guy that it pained me so much because I couldn't put him on the list because everyone else that I had above him changed the way the game was played, and he was just a mirror image. He studied Michael Jordan's moves. There's so many compilations on YouTube and Instagram of him hitting the exact same shot, the same turnaround shot, the same way he would take layups. He would take shots in the same way. He would do everything like a carbon copy. If you didn't know that there was a difference, right, you would think that was the same player.
That's the reason.
They're so close. But
that's the reason he cracks my cracks my Mount Rushmore, Sam, because as you're saying, they're basically the same thing. And if you put one of them, you got to put both, in my opinion.
That's just
there's no Kobe. there's no Kobe without MJ. We know that, and
but there is MJ without Kobe.
That's just because he came. He came. Imagine a world without Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant was just Kobe Bryant. He would be considered the greatest of all time, no
Kobe still
doubt.
had the same work ethic and drive, but even like before Mike, or not before Mike, but like even if there wasn't a Mike, like you hear all these interviews and conversations that he's had. Like Kobe, if Michael Jordan wasn't never around, we would probably be sitting here saying Kobe Bryant is the greatest of all time because of what he was able to do and what he did with the basketball.
I think he didn't change the game the way that Michael Jordan did because he didn't add anything new. He copied what was done before. He just did it so damn well.
He added a cleaner jump shot.
I mean, Michael Jordan's jump shot was ridiculous by
Towards
the end of his career. Too.
Towards the end, Kobe's developed throughout his whole career.
Yeah, I think 95 is when Jordan started to develop his
I want
shot.
to say the second repeat was really when he started to really started to realize that like he needs to develop more of a jump. Like his jump shot was there, but it wasn't to the degree. I think it's like pretty much after he came back from baseball. I feel like that's when he really started we started seeing more consistent from
that baseball training just got him. It developed him into
that
a
was
sharpshooter.
still so crazy though that he trained during Space Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Like Space Jam was like his like training.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was in The Last Dance where they were talking about that he would have a facility and they would play like pickup games. Yeah, the pickup games there were the legends would all just go and hoop at MJ's Space Jam facility, and we need more footage of that in our lives.
That was on
Miller said it was like one of the best 5-on-5s he's ever participated in.
Yeah.
Like, call your own fouls, no reps, no nothing. He said it was the most physical like game 5-on-5 like he's ever played.
Wait, and Charles Barkley was on set that day.
I think Charles. I think I even saw Juwan Howard in one clip.
Yeah, man. The reason I brought up Charles Barkley is because I know he tried to take a bite out of one of the players at some point.
Didn't he just win with Phil Mickelson too?
He won with Phil Mickelson.
Phil Mickelson must have carried so much.
Chuck actually had a decent swing today.
Did he actually?
Yeah, he didn't hesitate.
One whole swing?
No. Like his form was much improved since the last time. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't have like that hesitation that he does.
Oh no, but that was iconic. That was his signature thing.
Phil talked some sense into him, is what happened.
Clever.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think of Kobe?
I think it's really like I have 3 set on mine, and one that I'm kind of set on, but I'm still thinking about. And it's really hard to say that Kobe doesn't belong here, but it's also to the fact of, yes, if we would have not seen Michael, then Kobe probably would have been in that conversation more often rather than just oh yeah, he's there. It's more of a stronger consideration for it. But I just would like I think with Kobe, his impact on the game has really it's almost somewhat yet to be seen in some ways, since it is kind of so close, and it was very cut short. I mean, he was pushing for more WNBA coverage. He was pushing for a lot of different people for development. I don't think he would have the same impact as Michael Jordan, just because Michael Jordan has had a lot more time on you. You're really eating yogurt on a podcast.
I'm hungry.
Yo.
Hey.
But I think
what does the yogurt think? Does Kobe crack Mount Rushmore for you?
It says the N-word.
What does?
What?
I was kidding.
What?
What did you say?
I'm kidding.
What? It's just vanilla yogurt. It's vanilla Greek yogurt. I'm just hungry.
Nah.
What?
Why are you
I don't know what that was
on
about.
stream, bro?
I'm hungry. I haven't had dinner.
Then eat out. Side.
All right.
So basically,
back to Kobe.
Yeah.
Back to Kobe, Ben.
Yeah, I just think that Michael Jordan's had a lot more time to have a bigger impact on the game and than than a Kobe Bryant. Whether it will be from when he did play or when he didn't, just because Kobe tragically passed away this year.
Yeah, see, that's where I disagree because Kobe, whether you like it or
Yo,
not,
shut up, yogurt man.
like, what are you on about? Whether you like it or not, Kobe actually has like had an impact. Like, if Mike inspired Kobe, Kobe inspired this generation. Like the guys that we are seeing now getting drafted, and guys that we've seen drafted in the 2000s, a lot of the times they're saying they've watched Kobe and they resemble their game after Kobe.
Yeah, but if you look at that Kobe's generation, it was Michael.
Okay, fine,
And
Mike, but
Mikey and Michael, and Michael
Mikey.
Jordan.
Oh, Mikey.
Michael Jordan would have never. He paved the way for NBA players to be superstars. You know, he was one of the reasons why the NBA is as big as it is because of his because of his sponsorships, because of his worldwide acclaim, because he actually had a movie. And I think that's the difference between Michael and Kobe. That
Kobe was going to be in He Got Game until
he said no, and
Yeah.
then Ray Allen took it,
yeah.
and then he had a feud with Ray
Listen,
Allen.
we're straying a little too far from the point. We're talking about them as basketball players, not them as movie stars. We're not talking about
Yeah.
these
No,
guys
but
as
you have to talk about the impact of an impact they've had on an NBA player in itself. Like Michael Jordan paved the way for more NBA players to be more commercially successful.
no, and I'm agreeing with that. But I'm saying like it doesn't matter how many movies they starred in. We're talking about who they were on the court and how they changed the way the game is played, what accomplishments they've had. We're not really talking so much about, oh, well, Michael Jordan was in Space Jam, so that's what makes him so great. No. It's what he did on the court. He was only made it to Space Jam. He's only an actor because of how good of a basketball player he was, not vice versa. His role in Space Jam did not make him a better player. It's the other way around.
He paved the way for NBA players to have those opportunities.
Okay, but you're saying that Kobe never hasn't inspired anyone.
I didn't say that. I said that he hadn't had that big of an that worldwide acclaim of an impact off the court. Like I'm not saying that, and that's not a knock to him. I just think that it's not a gigantic knock to him when you look at it in the big picture. I'm just saying that's what mainly separates.
No, and I kind of agree.
I'm sorry, Sam. I want to analyze Kobe as a basketball player. That's the reason I'm putting him into my Mount Rushmore. I mean, if we're talking about effect, Kobe had the massive effect on the world. He was probably China's favorite player until Yao Ming came around.
Besides Yao
and
Ming, yeah.
really, I mean, I forgot what the story was. Somebody, I think it might have been Dwayne Wade. He's like, I thought I was famous until I was with Kobe in China, and the amount of people that were like chanting Kobe's name, just waiting in the streets just to get a glimpse of him was. If we're talking about impact, that's probably the biggest impact I've seen. I mean, other than the Michael Jordan craze, I wasn't alive for that, but it was insane. So Kobe, I feel like, is a no-brainer, especially because we assess him as the mirror, as Sam was saying, of a GOAT. There's no reason to not put him in the GOAT conversation as well.
Well, he's definitely in the conversation. Just the way that I was framing it is I don't want to put two of the same thing on the Mount Rushmore. It has to have that variety. It has to have, like, everyone has to have a place there. And Kobe's place is not on that Mount Rushmore for me, just because we have Michael Jordan there. He didn't do enough different to belong there. That's just all I'm saying.
All right, we're gonna move on to another player that I believe is a no-brainer for the Mount Rushmore. Let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Devin Booker dropping 70.
No, I'm just messing around.
Bubble Booker, man. Bubble Booker and Hoodie Mello. That's what it is.
It's Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain. This guy, honestly, one of the GOATs in many sports, volleyball and basketball. He is
and other things.
Yeah. Sam. No, but on a more serious note, Wilt Chamberlain is probably the most acclaimed scorer of all time. Scorer, rebounder. I mean, we're talking about stat padding. Russell Westbrook is getting so much heat in recent years for going for stats. Wilt Chamberlain, although you can say he was a grown man playing in a boys' league, and you can make the argument of that. He was going against Bill Russell, who has 11 championships, and really
Bill
bested
Russell
him in a
got the
lot of.
best of him.
Yeah. So Wilt Chamberlain, for me, if you guys appreciated the little Devin Booker edit, gets the nod.
I'd like to say something. Wilt's on my Mount Rushmore. I mean, as Broussard said it, you can just call the NBA record book the autobiography of Wilt Chamberlain because that's really what it is at this point. But I mean, if you look at it statistically, Wilt Chamberlain like dominated Bill Russell. It was just Bill Russell had such a better team around him. There was no kind of choice. And I think that we talk about a player that can transcend generations. There's not a lot of them, especially in that era. There's not a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put him as one of those guys. I mean, you just hear this. It's just the folklore around him. I mean, he was the first major superstar that the NBA had because of just the tales of him weightlifting and his very big appearance. Because I mean, rather than just his height, and even besides all of that, if you look at his stats, they're insane. I mean, you don't even have to say 100 points. You could just say, what was it, 52 and 30 in a season?
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. That no one will ever come close to that sort of stat padding we can say for a long, long time.
If you put
the league is so different right now. The league is so different.
That's how close you're gonna get.
Yeah, no, the league is so different right now that it's not ever going to be possible for someone to get that. Let's put those numbers into that perspective of he's not gonna ever. There's never gonna be a team where there's one player that is so much beyond what everyone else in the court is at any given time, right? Because the NBA gets better, like always. The NBA right now, I know a lot of people, the old heads, love saying that, oh, the old NBA is so much better, but the level of talent is always going up, right? Because now they have more access to all these training methods, right? They're keeping their bodies perfect year round. We see like LeBron is spending a couple $1 million every off season just to keep his body in tip top shape.
Same thing with Russell Wilson.
Same thing with Russell Wilson. That's why he'll be relevant in 5 years. But so the thing about Wilt is he was like the only one doing it at the time. He was really the only one taking care of his body. He was the best athlete on the court every night, right? But the thing about that is that it would work now. That's what Ben said, that it would still work. He would still be an incredible player. Maybe he wouldn't be the most dominant player ever if he played right now, but he would still be very dominant. He'd be a perennial all-star. He'd probably be a multiple-time champion even right now, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he won twice, but you talk about with another person who's on this Mount Rushmore, LeBron. When you talk about willing a team to a championship, that was one of the main reasons. It wasn't until he went to the Lakers and got Jerry West and Elgin Baylor that he was able to win that second championship. And the championship and the first one that he got in Philadelphia, which is like the only one they'll see for the next 20 years, or for the next however long. But the only one that the one that he got in Philadelphia, that team I think was voted by like what they considered as the best players of all time when they voted as the greatest team of all time. I mean, it's one of those things where, imagine like if you were to switch places and Wilt Chamberlain was in what Bill Russell was. I mean that team just gets. I mean, you don't even want to imagine how many points
would they lose ever? Would they lose a game?
I mean, with Red Auerbach coaching,
they would have had to because the best record is 73-9. So.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you guys some names. That you stop me when we can have a real conversation about putting a player.
So are these like fringe guys that like, you're not quite convinced about, but you could get convinced of if we have a good enough convo about it?
You stop me when we can have a conversation. Magic Johnson.
We can have a conversation.
We could.
We could.
Wait, a conversation about being there, or
Conversation
about
that he could
belonging
be
there.
in your Mount Rushmore.
oh, no, I'll have that conversation.
There are 3 reasons why the NBA is still around today. The draft, the 1984 draft, Michael Jordan, and Bird Magic. I'm not putting Patrick Ewing on my that he does not. No, that's not happening. MJ's already on here, and I love Larry Bird, but when you consider point guards, Magic Johnson's the greatest point guard of all time. And to me, Steph is close, but I mean, he's held that for how many years? There's a reason why the NBA is as popular as it is. You have to look at it as if you want to just, and I know that if we're just going to keep going on impact, you want to talk about the impact that he had. His rivalry with Larry Bird pushed it so far, pushed the NBA into a different section, and he was on one of the biggest market. He was in one of the biggest markets. He was marketable. It wasn't one of those people. He wasn't one of those guys that were like a Larry Bird who really out of the Boston area. It would have been difficult to market because he's such a he's such a difficult person to kind of be like, oh, everyone like him now. No, there's a reason why everyone liked Magic Johnson.
He's not Irving Magic Johnson for no
Magic.
reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait, Ben. Let me get this straight. So you said yes to LeBron, right?
Yeah.
And you said yes to Wilt.
Yeah.
Now you're saying yes to Magic. So you're saying that 3 of the 4 all-time like Mount Rushmore players were at one point in their career a Laker.
Yeah.
You're saying there are 3 Lakers and 1 Bull. That is, you're ready to call it.
And
right
1
there.
Wizard. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And 1 Cavalier, so it does not matter.
And 160.
And, yeah.
Yes,
it was like the Philadelphia Warriors.
But we're talking about at one point in their careers. So LA is represented 3 out of the 4 slots.
It just proves how
Mount Rushmore
dominant
right
they've been
Yeah.
for
That is ridiculous.
so
If you do
long.
if you do a top 10, I'm sure you get like the majority
Yeah.
of the 10 is
7,
You think about it, we
Los
haven't talked
something?
about Shaq yet. We haven't talked about
We talked about Kobe, and
We talked
we're
about
kind of
Kobe.
split. We're split 50-50, so you could put Kobe on the list, right? But that would like kick off like someone like LeBron or something. But still, a Laker for a Laker. Wow, it seems like everyone we're gonna mention from now until maybe like Tim Duncan has been on the Lakers.
Yeah, so I'm gonna continue with
crazy.
some names. My next one was gonna be Larry Bird, but Ben made a case already.
You
Yeah,
really put Larry Bird in your top
We can have a conversation.
We could talk about it, but
Yeah. Do you know the meme with like if KD and Larry Bird played, they'd have to like revert to like really bad stuff? Because KD would probably destroy.
KD would not last 5 minutes on the court with Larry Bird, and that's not because of their ability to play basketball.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a
All
good
right.
point.
Larry
You know what?
Bird
That's a
did
good
not.
point.
Larry
have a
Bird did not
conversation
hold his
about
tongue.
Larry
He
Bird.
was rough, and he was not a very nice player when he was on the court. And KD seems very thin-skinned.
because of all the COD.
KD seems very thin-skinned from everything we've seen on Twitter. And
yeah, it's kind of crazy because if you think about it, he kind of grew up with Adult Swim and Xbox 360 game chat. So I'm just making jokes, but
yeah,
I like KD. Doesn't have enough, but I don't believe Larry Bird can be in this conversation.
I'll make that conversation or make that point because it just goes back. Like, yes, we talk about the relationship that he had on the impact they had on the NBA. Sure, it's not like accolades wise, it's not to the level of LeBron or Kobe or whatever, but there has to be. But like again, it goes back to the fact that Larry and Magic's rivalry has pushed the NBA to new the NBA was on tape delay. Like they were like the finals wasn't even cared about. Most of the players were most of the players were thought of as thugs or just brutes because of how the amount of fights there were. There wasn't really, order, stability in the NBA. Like there were the NBA ratings were gonna go down. But you interject Magic and Bird. The NBA is here today because Magic and Bird, because now you have CBS, you have TNT, you have Turner Sports, you have everything now is because of the relationship the NBA's had with TV and the TV deals have been because of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Like, and not to mention when Larry would play, like he could make anything from anywhere. Like you want to talk about, like, yes, he wasn't like the flashiest player like Magic was, or he wasn't like big about like his performances or anything like that, like Magic was. Like what Larry was able to do on the court was something that we never saw. I mean, besides also with Magic Johnson, like what they two and their relationship and their rivalry was like on the court was something that honestly pushed the NBA further. And again, it's not for me. It's not all about the accolades. It's also what they've done for the NBA. And for me, there's not an NBA without Magic and Larry.
Do you have them both
Now,
on there?
if
You have Larry. Oh.
I have both.
Them both?
I have both Magic and Larry.
I have a question for you,
Mike.
I have a question for you, Brandon. So none of us were actually around at the time of these rivalries, so we see everything in replays, and maybe that has tainted our perception of it or not. I don't know. But does it seem like Magic Johnson was always marketed as like the hero of the story? It's like the Showtime Lakers. They're running around.
I don't know about that because
they're the team you want to watch. And then Larry was always like the guy that spoiled their parade, and that they would clash with in the finals.
It was just Magic versus Bird, and then their co-stars, everyone around. It was Magic with AC Green, with
James Worthy,
with Michael Cooper. Kareem next to guy versus Larry Bird and guys like Kevin McHale, Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, Bill Walton. Like it was how the rivalry was set up as. It was Larry and his co-stars versus Magic and his co-stars. There wasn't like a good versus evil. Like there really wasn't.
Depending on which coach, it was good versus evil.
Yeah. I mean, like obviously, if you were a Lakers fan, you would think that Magic was, good and Larry was evil.
Well, I meant more like of the way their personalities came off.
No, because
like,
how
Magic was like the kind,
was
lighthearted guy.
No, how their personalities it was Larry who was, this like the soft-spoken, hardworking dude who like mowed his own lawn, like.
That's how he got injured. He was like making gravel, and like he got injured.
Yeah. Like that's how he messed up his back. Like he was a guy that was like, he played basketball for a living, but like on his off days, he was like a regular dude.
Yeah.
Like Magic embraced what LA is.
Yeah, Magic embraced being an NBA superstar.
Yeah, Magic embraced that. He was the all smiling. He was this guy that was open and like honest and just was like just an all around like joyful, smiling guy, like impressionable guy. While Larry was like not that. He was the complete opposite. That's how it was marketed, the rivalry. Yeah. But it was also marketed to their accolades and what they were able to do on the court.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, you want to just look at like it's almost a tale of two cities because you look at Boston. It's not the biggest market. It's a more it's personified as a more hardworking kind of
blue collar
area, and that was Larry Bird. Like that, like that's why Larry Bird came from French Lick, Indiana. We wouldn't know a French Lick if it wasn't for Larry Bird. So. And he goes and he becomes a superstar because he was a man of the people. With Magic Johnson, I mean, he
wanted to be LA.
Yeah, LA he at the time.
He embodied LA and what LA was then and is now. Like just being this grand superstar and embracing everything that it comes with. Bird was, embraced Boston, but Larry was also like that before he got to Boston. He was a guy that's gonna get up 1,000-shot warm up and do his routine and not be too open with the media like Magic was, or just and go out there and play.
We're going a little bit in circles now.
You want to know what Magic?
That's a good.
You want to know what Magic Johnson was? He was Los Angeles.
Hey.
Respect the drip.
Listen, this is a very welcome addition to these live streams, getting these graphics up here, having some fun. But Magic Johnson was special. Larry Bird was special. I think that there is an argument to be made for both of them to be on the Mount Rushmore. I think if you have to pick one, I'm going to go with Magic. I think that he was that NBA superstar, whereas Larry was more of a reserved guy that just put up numbers and was special. But very good argument to be made for them both to belong up there.
I mean, they're on mine. I mean, I know that was like going to be a big controversial one, Larry Bird, but like to me, I don't know.
He's special.
My favorite NBA documentary of all time is that HBO one, the Magic and Bird one. So like maybe that's a little bit of bias.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. All right, so let's move on. Let's see another name we got in the chat, Tim Duncan, and I was close. I was very close to putting Tim Duncan on my list, and
I don't think it's even close. I don't think he cracks it.
I'll make an argument.
I don't know if this argument for this because I was close to it. I had to convince myself not to, but I was very close to it. If he won in 2013, if they didn't choke that series away because it was in their possession, I think Greg Popovich made one of his biggest mistakes of his life. Right, Greg Popovich is one of the greatest coaches ever, but he made one fatal mistake that ruined it.
He was one play away.
Mm-hmm. It really was one play away, and that play was sitting Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan was sitting on the bench when Chris Bosh got that rebound, kicked it out to Ray Allen, and the rest was history.
Yeah.
Right, because
I mean, the argument is about like having the best mobility out there to guard the
Mhm.
perimeter because that's what Miami needed, and so that's why he put out.
No, I know
Diaw.
the reason, and I'm very
But, like,
grateful for that reason.
Obviously, no one thought like, oh, Bosh is gonna get it off the glass and kick it out to Allen in the corner.
Mhm.
For a
The
shot that
idea
he's been
was-
practicing for years. Like
I
this
got
was just like the culmination. This was like Doctor Strange like holding up one for Tony
Yes.
Stark.
This
Like,
was,
that
the one
was-
scenario that the Miami Heat could have actually won the game.
or if LeBron just made the three.
Well, the idea is LeBron's not going to make the three. He missed like 3 threes and made one in that time span. And those
LeBron's three wasn't as good as it is now. Like LeBron
he was
really
not that
pulled the
reliable of a shooter back then.
Yeah.
But the idea of like that play happened and it didn't ruin Tim Duncan's legacy by any means. He won 5 championships when it was all said and done. That was incredible. He went 5 for 6. But if he won against Miami in 2013, if Greg Popovich let him play, he grabbed the rebound, and then it was over. The clock hit 0. Spurs are your NBA champions. He would have the same 6-0 record that Michael Jordan has. And I don't know how you can not put that on your Mount Rushmore, but that is not what Tim Duncan was. Tim Duncan did lose that series, and the rest is history. I think he just misses out on my Mount Rushmore. Tim Duncan's a great player. He's the greatest power forward to ever play the game. And he definitely started the wave of these high-skilled big men that can play on the perimeter if they have to, but he wasn't quite there yet. But he was starting the trend in that direction.
Him and Dirk.
But Dirk came a little bit afterwards in terms of his rise. Tim Duncan was already there when Dirk just started getting big. So that's why I put Tim Duncan as like more in the pioneer category, but Dirk definitely too. He was one of the best stretch bigs before that was even a thing. And imagine if Dirk was in his prime now, when when they're actually letting centers shoot threes, and he wasn't having to convince his coach every 5 seconds that, hey, that's a good shot for me. I know I'm 7 feet tall, but that's a good shot for me. I can hit that. Oof, that
Dirk was never a big, like he was a low post player, but but throughout his career, like he was able to just be like, he doesn't have to get all his points from being back to the basket and like spin move layup. Like
He's the second best post fade behind Al Jefferson.
Al Jefferson. That's a name I have not heard in a long time.
Can we put him on the Mount Rushmore? I think the post fade's got to do it. I think he's got to go.
Is he playing in the Big 3 league?
Yeah, he is. If we were making a 2K13 Silver My Team Hall of Fame,
Gerald Green gets on there.
Gerald Green, J.R. Smith, and Al Jefferson, all 3 would make the Mount Rushmore.
No, I think Gerald Green was a bronze. I think Gerald Green was a.
I think he was a silver.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Because there was that one mode.
Online, he was like always on that team. I was like, I can't.
Yeah, there was one mode in 2K13 where you had to have 1 silver on your team for you to be able to play, and everyone would run either Gerald Green, J.R. Smith, or Al Jefferson.
Yep.
Because
it was so frustrating too.
I would
because-
literally just chill in the post with Al Jefferson.
Yep. And he was a silver, and we'd be playing my team, and we have like all like gold or diamond teams or whatever, and we're just feasting with
No,
Al
I think
Jefferson.
everything was gold. I don't think there was like a.
There was nothing higher than gold.
Yeah, I think everything was just like gold at
Yeah.
that point, and then 2K14 is when they started doing the like
Adding the
tier
other
list.
colors
Yeah.
of tiers. Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever.
I haven't played
It
my
was the
team in
first.
forever.
It was the first my team that came out, and it was like a weird setup for how they made it work. But that's some fun gaming history.
Yeah.
Some fun memories we had on that game.
Let's round out the Mount Rushmore topic, because for me, I have Jordan, Kobe, and Wilt currently in my Mount Rushmore, and I'm going to bring up my fourth one currently, and I'm surprised, Brandon, that he isn't in yours. I think he's not in Ben. But the all-time leading scorer in NBA history, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, has not even been brought up in this conversation. And I
said
believe
him once during the
Yes.
Magic
Yes,
breakup.
you said it when we were talking about Magic.
I believe Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he was the first name that I put up there, actually prior to Michael Jordan. This guy, I mean, going back and watching old tape, I mean, I've studied a lot of these GOATs, as a basketball fan, you really take pride in learning the history of the game before you came along. And Kareem was one of those players. I know I'm not the best basketball player, but for my size, I modeled my game a little bit off of what Kareem did.
Wait, you're like 7 something? I
No,
haven't seen you in a long time.
5'9" Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Proportionally, I would go to the park and work on my post fade. I know Brandon's pretty good at that post fade too. The hook.
Yeah, I mean at 6'6", it's a very different story.
Yeah, but
6'3", 4".
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
something
so
like that.
no, Kareem definitely, just because of
With
it's
shoes
Kareem,
on,
guys.
Brandon. With shoes on.
I don't know with shoes on. I know
I remember-
like with socks it's 3 or 4. I
Yeah,
forgot.
I remember going to the park actually, and Brandon would always yell Kareem out because one of his moves was the post skyhook, and he would be like Kareem, and I'd be like, "You want some coffee with that?"
It would go It would go in once every like 20 times each.
No,
round.
Brandon was
It was
Brandon was
fun.
pretty consistent with it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I agree that he could be in this conversation. I don't know if I would put him in there because he didn't do anything that other players weren't doing besides that one move, and no one's done it since. Right? I don't know why it died out.
He
I don't know why
talked
this
about
guy
it. He
has
said
died
since there's such a more focus on like shooting and make sure that you're the best shooter,
Okay, but he was dominating in what, the 60s and 70s. You would
I
think
know
that
what I'm
from
saying. Like,
then until like the early 2000s, the post game was still very involved in the way that.
I mean, you had the
teams were
dream
running offense.
shake. Yeah, I mean,
But that wasn't the same move.
No, because I feel like
You-
what
you-
Kareem brought was not only dominance but also elegance.
Mhm.
But once we started transitioning into guys like David Robinson, Ewing, Shaq, it was just dominance. It was bully ball in the paint.
Mhm.
There was no finesse. There was no, trying to kiss it off the glass or anything like that. It was just feed you in the post, do a spin move.
Right,
and
but
just
that's
dunk
my
on
point.
whoever's
It's
underneath
that what he did was so unique and one of a kind, but it did not leave a lasting impact on the game because no one tried to do it since. They were just like,
Yeah.
"Yep, that's great. I'm not gonna ever be able to do that, so I'm just gonna change the way the game is played and beat you in my own way."
Didn't he learn how to do the skyhook because he wasn't allowed to dunk
He
it
wasn't
in
like-
either
yeah,
high school or
Mhm.
college?
in college they banned dunking because of him. Like that was I remember reading that in like a book when I was like in 5th grade, and I was like, wow. But
Yeah.
Wow.
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 Yeah.
The more you learn.
I didn't know we had Owen Wilson on the podcast. Maybe we should reach
Yeah.
out. Wow.
That'd be a great podcast. We'd just be saying wow for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's make it
Just
happen.
reach
Let's get
out to him.
trending
Hey,
on
It's like
Twitter, guys.
ka-chow. I would
Hey,
the
can
only
we-
thing, wow and ka-chow. That's the only thing we're saying.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
join the pod and we'll have an entire conversation in just onomatopoeias.
Yeah.
No, but Kareem, fantastic. If there's nothing else to say about him, if you guys have anything, I want to bring up another Lakers big man.
That rounds out my top 4. Jordan, Kobe,
about-
Wilt, and Kareem.
What about the other Lakers big man who is also on like every other team in the NBA. Shaquille O'Neal. I think he was one of the most dominant players that has ever lived. He was one of the scariest forces. He actually was the reason for the foundation of a strategy that's still in place today. And
they kind of
they're trying to cut it, but people still hack a Shaq. Right, that's what I'm referring to. It's Shaq had one weakness, and that was shooting free throws.
Shooting. It wasn't just shooting free throws.
Okay, yeah, shooting.
And then pizza, probably.
And work ethic.
Helped him out, though.
He had a few.
Although the work ethic never really mattered because he was a multiple-time champion on several different teams, so that never stopped him from succeeding. Pizza probably helped him because he was like one of the heaviest players of all time and used that to his advantage. He freaking dominated on everybody. He would back his way down into the post and dunk on everyone's head. I think he broke more rims than any player, maybe every other player combined.
His work ethic, because I don't know if you guys remember when he did a sit down with Kobe a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they were discussing like their Lakers times and whatever. Like he was saying like after like one of their championships, like he was saying like Kobe's like in the gym working out like the next day or like the week after they won or whatever, like a few days after, and Shaq's just like chilling on the pool, just like sipping margaritas and that kind of stuff.
He's having a good time.
He's like, I'm gonna get ready like during the season.
I think with Shaq, he faded out hard, and I think that's what kind of separates it a little bit. And because we could say, oh yeah, he won multiple championships, but if you look at him on Miami, it was not the same Shaq as him on.
No, it was
right. But that's what happens when your game is built on physical dominance, and you are no longer physically dominant. Then you're gonna fade out quickly.
I know, right? but I don't know if we can justify putting him there just because of that. And I think if you look at him in a vacuum, sure, we could say that. But if we look at when Miami did make the run, Alonzo Mourning carried a lot of the workload of it. Yeah. I think he's there. I think he's there. I don't know. I wouldn't put him over Wilt to an extent. Wilt was great his entire career. I agree that Kareem should be talked about a lot more. We should have talked about Kareem a lot more. Because he did, when you the all-time leading scorer, it's him or Malone, but I think it's Kareem. Yeah,
it's Kareem.
But when you're like the all-time leading scorer, you got to be talked about. So I think
the big reason I wanted to bring up Shaq is because he's one of the few players that has a rule for him because there was a hack a Shaq strategy to try to get him to the free throw line.
That's just exploiting a weakness,
right? But also, now all these years later. And the NBA still has not figured out a good rule for that. They're now doing these off-ball free throws. It's like a technical foul for an off-ball foul in the bonus. But it was when you have a player who an entire strategy is forged from the ground up to try to stop him. And it's still, it slowed him down. It didn't stop him, right? He still got his minutes, he got his playing time. He deserves a spot in the conversation. No, I don't know if he deserves a spot on the Mount Rushmore, but we got to talk about it. We can't have a Mount Rushmore video without talking about him.
I disagree because there's players like Hakeem Olajuwon that we hardly touched that I believe had more impact on basketball and was a better player. If we're talking about finesse, like Kareem was, a better player than Shaquille O'Neal, in my opinion. I have Hakeem and maybe even Karl Malone above Shaq. And the reason I'm not putting him in this conversation is because I do not regard him as the best center of all time. So it doesn't really fit into what we're having in the landscape. I have Wilt and Kareem, my two top big men of all time, and he's not comparable to those in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's a fair point. It's a fair point. Just it's one of those guys where you have to bring him up just to get our opinions heard about him because he was one of the most dominant players of all time. Just his physical ability to push everyone out of the way and make everyone look small on the court at any given moment. That's something that deserves consideration, even though I don't think he cracks the list, but it's something that deserves to be brought up and talked about.
Yeah, you can definitely consider it. I mean, I think just the reasoning is that, he was at a time the most dominant force in the NBA, but then a couple years later he was kind of on the Suns, not doing much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just quickly give a few names here, and you guys, if you have any thoughts, these will be our closing thoughts for the YouTube live and the podcast if you are listening on Apple or Spotify. Um, Dr. J, Scottie Pippen, Bill Russell are the three that we haven't discussed.
Yo, pound for pound, Allen Iverson was the best player to ever play the game.
He was the best scorer. I don't know if he was the best player to ever play.
Pound for
think-
pound.
Pound for pound, he was the best scorer to ever play
He was
the
the
game. But I don't know if
best
pound for pound was the
player
best
to
player.
ever play the game.
I
Pound
don't
for
know
pound.
if
If
Justify
he was
that.
the size, if he was the size of LeBron James, he would be the greatest player to ever play the game. And that might be a little exaggerated because LeBron is so great because he is that size and that big. But if he had the body type of Michael Jordan, which is pretty much the average body type of every NBA player in the league right now, because that's what's being selected for, right? If he was
no one's
6'6",
a 6 foot guard anymore. Like
yeah,
you
there's
have
no
to be
6 foot tall
6'3"
guard anymore.
or
So if he was like
higher.
Isaiah Thomas
6'4",
is second.
6'5", and had the muscle mass of a 6'4", 6'5" guard, he would be unstoppable. We would have a very different conversation about who Allen Iverson was as a player.
I mean, yeah, but we can look at what ifs all the time. We have to look at what.
Oh yeah.
happened.
That's why he's not anywhere close to our Mount Rushmore. But if we're talking about like honorable mentions, he's pound for pound the greatest player of all time.
No Scottie Pippen, Bill Russell, or Dr. J.
Bill also could be argued. I think with the rings, indeed, and his impact on allowing more black players to play in the NBA and being a trailmaker through that, a trailblazer through that. I just put Wilt up there just to think because his statistical dominance over in a decade where statistical dominance wasn't really a thing. That's why I kind of just put Wilt over him a little bit. Dr. J, he doesn't get talked about much. I just think he's sort of becoming lost, and I think in kind of, oh well, we don't have him in our top 10. He just slowly kind of slides down the list. But I don't know if I'd put him over any of the four that I have on my list.
The honorable mention about Dr. J is when we were talking about there would be no NBA without someone. Dr. J is one of the names on that list because he was part of that merger, the NBA ABA merger, and he was one of the big reasons that the NBA survived.
What the NBA was tactical. It was fundamentals, right? What the ABA brought was high flying,
the flash,
the cool factor of NBA that we're experiencing now with guys like Aaron Gordon, Derrick Jones Jr., and Zach LaVine, just to name like a few of these like tremendous dunkers that we're seeing now, is because of guys like Dr. J, who, because of the merger, because he went from the ABA to the NBA in that merger, because the ABA was failing financially, like there was now this takeoff of guys that were, able to dunk from the free throw line, and that was pretty cool. Like we saw guys like Mike and Dominique and others that were
Spud Webb,
sure, and other high flyers later on, and the flash like Magic has because of Dr. J. Dr. J, I don't feel like I feel like Dr. J isn't up on a Mount Rushmore unless you're in Philadelphia, unless you're saying Philadelphia's greatest ever players or New Jersey's, because he was that for both those teams. But I feel like in NBA lore and NBA history books, he should go down as one of the more influential players, and because of what he brought from his time in the ABA.
Yeah.
Dr. J, as a basketball player, is just one of my favorite players in history. I mean, watching his success. Too. Yeah, for sure. I mean,
best afro.
Contesting with Jarrett Allen a little bit because he brought the modern day fro back. But go check out our first ever YouTube video of why
NBA hairstyles,
why people don't like rock the bald look anymore. But
LeVar's gonna bring it back. LeVar's gonna bring it back.
Yo, I thought of one thing though when you were talking about the ABA merger, and it's like the physical size and strength of the players, that it was the high flying antics. This might be so out of nowhere, and this guy might not be relevant next year or ever, but Y'all see this guy the Miami Heat signed to like a 2-way contract, Paul Abuya?
Yo, he's a tank.
He is huge.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm
He's a
gonna share my
tank.
screen real quick right now on the Zoom meeting, and like this is
He
DK
deserves to be on the
Metcalf
Mount Rushmore.
sized. He is DK Metcalf sized right now. This guy is crazy.
Someone called him that he's going to Miami. DK Metcalfecito.
Yeah.
Capacito.
That's like I just thought like when you were talking about like physically dominating players like that, I was like, this man looks like he's ready for football.
Mm-hmm.
And the Miami Heat signed him to like a 2-way contract, and hopefully
Which is
he
rare
pans
because they
out.
don't ever sign international players.
Yeah, hopefully he pans out. I don't know if he will. He is some undrafted international player, but if he pans out, that guy is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
That's
all
definitely
right. So back to the
ABA
players that are going to make this
influences on
list.
that. Yeah, that's some ABA
talking about some
influences on
other
that.
guys. I don't know. Like I feel like there's always a consensus top 5, top 10, but there's also like I think like we've discussed before, like guys like Hakeem, or guys like Bill Walton or not Bill Walton, Bill Russell. They'll like get into these conversations because of what they were able to do. But I don't think they crack in Mount Rushmore unless like you're talking about like specifics throughout Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. I get you. Yeah.
Like if you're talking
Is
about
there
general
anybody-
NBA,
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, is there anybody that's currently in the NBA that we did not already name? So we already named LeBron, we already named KD, we already named Curry.
I don't know because there hasn't been that many other than Steph. Like there isn't that many other players with similar accolades to the legends that we've already in the NBA currently.
If James Harden wins 3 rings, would he haven't done enough to crack the?
Still wouldn't be better than Dwayne Wade. So.
I'm talking about the way he has changed the game. If James Harden had a couple rings on his name, would you guys consider that?
I think it'd be up for consideration. I think that's again we talked about Steph being up for consideration. I think that's definitely up. I think again it's one of those guys that you will put into consideration because of what they were able to do. I think the only player that comes out of the 2010s that can make a Mount Rushmore at the moment is LeBron. Like LeBron currently is the only player that can make a Mount Rushmore that's a current player and also coming out of the 2010s. Like you can't make the case for a guy like Giannis or Steph or Harden because they haven't done enough in their careers. I mean, yes, they have revolutionized the game, Harden and Steph, but they haven't done enough compared to what, we talked about Magic, Bird, Mike, Shaq, Kareem, like we talked about all these legends, and the only player that currently makes it is LeBron.
Yep.
Right. No, and I was talking more like some of the young guys that we're seeing coming into the league right now who only have a year or two under their belt. If any of those guys have shown you anything, have shown you any sparks of greatness.
If Lonzo Ball can get the 40-inch vertical that Mike Wazemba believes he can get, he's on the list.
I'm more concerned about the Steph Curry jump shot.
If we're talking about current players, I think when it comes to more accolades needed and more like attention or whatever, the only 3 players I see is Kawhi, Giannis. I mean, we already talked about besides Steph and Harden, Kawhi, Giannis, and if his career pans out the way like I'm hoping his career does, is Luka.
Yeah, I was gonna say Luka seems like he's on track. Where if he keeps improving at the rate
I think
he
enters next season as an MVP candidate.
Luka's
just going back on track too,
but he has to get there.
Yeah.
He's not there.
Just going back, I just feel like there's been a lot of talk about just like honorable mentions. I think it just goes back to the credit of how well the NBA has been able to market their superstars when they have their superstars, and B, the fact that the NBA, it has been since the 50s and 60s has been able to produce superstars that we're talking about now. Like I think it's unique to have a sport where we're talking about guys like Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain because of what they were able to accomplish then, and we're talking about guys like LeBron what are able to accomplish now. I think that's just the beauty of the conversation that we're having, is the fact that we're having the conversation of greatest ever throughout Mount Rushmore throughout the history of the NBA. Like, you can make this. I think the only other similar sport you can make the case for is baseball, since baseball started in the I want to say 1900, like I think even 1800s.
Yeah, baseball's an old sport. I mean, you can make a similar case. I don't know too much about the sport and its history, but soccer's been around
Yeah,
forever.
Yeah.
you can soccer as well. Like there's
Hmm.
few sports that we can generally have this conversation about because of what
Football is nearly impossible though,
yeah,
Yeah.
because
it
football
is.
has so many positions that are also differently valued.
Yeah,
You can
Yeah.
have a Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, but you can't really have a Mount Rushmore of
right.
floaters.
But like I think those are like the only like three sports. I mean,
Mhm.
again, I don't know much, but maybe hockey. But those are the only three sports that
Probably hockey, if
we
we knew
can
more
generally
about
yeah probably.
it.
But three sports that we're at least somewhat knowledgeable about
Mhm.
Mhm.
to sit down and have a conversation and say these were our Mount Rushmores from like whatever or from like in general, and like that's what like the beauty of this conversation is the fact that they were like we're talking about greatness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to round off the YouTube live, we're gonna each give you guys our top 4 players, aka Mount Rushmore of NBA players, the greatest of all time, individually, and we'll leave it with you guys. And if you do have any thoughts or comments, please reach out to our Instagram, backseat.banter, our Twitter at bbpodofficial, or our TikTok at backseat.banter. So
And let us know in the comments what your Mount Rushmore is. If you disagree with us and think we left a name out completely, let us know. Or if you think that one of us is 100% on the money, let us know that too. So
yeah, so
let's get into
mine
our top fours.
mine is Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Wilt Chamberlain, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
All
Okay,
right.
mine are Magic, Bird, Michael Jordan, and Kobe.
Mine is Michael Jordan, LeBron, Will Chamberlain, and Magic Johnson.
All right. And mine is MJ, LeBron, Magic Johnson, and Wilt Chamberlain.
Hey, yo,
All right.
Sam. We got the same one.
Did we? No,
Yeah.
I think you said, you say Kareem, and I said,
Nah, I have
No, Jonathan said Kareem.
yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. So Ben and I completely agree. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I guess we're right
Wow.
because we agree.
What? Because two wrongs make a right.
I don't think so. No.
George Lopez said yes.
Yeah.
So that's going to wrap it up for this installment of our YouTube live specials and our podcast if you are listening on Apple or Spotify. So if you are listening on YouTube, please leave a like and a comment and consider subscribing. It really does help us out a lot. And if you are listening on Apple or Spotify, go check our YouTube out. We do live streams most of the times when we do podcasts now. So make sure to stay tuned for those. We are like a late night kind of podcast. We do most of our recordings at night. So it would be really appreciated if you guys can tune in when you're just relaxing or whatever's going on. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys please do enjoy these videos, I mean, what's not to enjoy? It's 4 bros talking about sports that they love. So please subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Brandon. Great conversation again today. It keeps getting better and better. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Backseat Banter out.
Peace out.